Welcome to Rich Conversations. I'm up in Wisconsin right now, in the barn. For those watching on YouTube, you can see that. If you're listening, you might be able to hear pigeons at one point, or the wind howling through all the old barn wood. But this is home. The other morning, I went to the cemetery, Oak Grove Cemetery. And I just walked around and just observed. And to me, that's a really interesting thing. More than the average person, I think about death. And I understand that it makes people uncomfortable, especially the time that we're living in now. We're so confronted by it on a daily basis. And so it's either an inappropriate thing to think about right now, or it's an extremely relevant thing to think about. And as someone who's gone through a near-death experience, death and mortality is something I think about a lot, and it impacts the decisions I make on a daily basis and how I live life. We often go about our lives on a cruise control, and we don't really often think about death until we reach an older age, and by that time, we're full of regrets and, I wish I could have done this, or I would have done that, or said this. And by thinking about death, it makes me think about how I want to live my life. So instead of fearing death, I fear not living life to the fullest. Because we don't know when our time is up. And that's what I'm thinking about quite a bit. So the cemetery by me is called Oak Grove Cemetery. It's where my grandpa is right now, and my parents are going to be there. I may even be there. And that's an interesting thing, to walk on the grounds, and someday they might be your neighbors. You better learn more about them, right? It's on the corner of like two highways, and when they started the cemetery in the 1800s, they didn't think about traffic or how the noise was going to be. So you're trying to be in this like quiet area and reflect, and then you just have semis going by and cars just going by. It's an interesting thing. But you have all these headstones, and there's this massive oak tree, and it's probably about 400 years old. It's the biggest oak tree I've ever seen in my life. Just so majestic. It is like the trunk is probably 10 feet in diameter. And I'm just standing in front of it for like 2 minutes just in awe. Think about all the things that it has seen and all the mornings that it has seen. It's something to think about. As I'm walking around and observing things, I noticed there were these two headstones. Now, was it tombstone or headstones? I'm not really sure. But so you had one, someone lived over 100 years. 100 years when they died. And the headstone next to them, it was someone who died at the age of 11. You know, just that juxtaposition of being right next to each other, and how we might live a very long time or we might live a short time. It's not up to us, right? Of the headstones, as I'm walking around, I'm trying to find the person that was born the earliest. And from what I could see, 1802 was the earliest date. I saw an 1804, 1834. There were some headstones that were pretty faded, and they were more limestone rather than granite. So that's kind of an indication of older graves and headstones. Maybe I was trying to find one from the 1700s. I think that would have been pretty interesting. But as I'm going about there, it's like we have this gift of life. And we're all going to end up like these folks in the cemetery. And I just don't understand why I would choose to spend my time being angry. Angry at myself, other people, the world. Life is short. Something that stuck out to me and was noticeable, aside from the oak trees, is this big, it looks like a monument or headstone, and I'm thinking, wow, this person must be pretty important, right? So as I get closer, I realized that it's a memorial to the Civil War. And on the back, they have a list of like 70 to 100 names of boys or men from the town that I'm from, Raymond, that served in the Civil War and served their country. It's such a small town, you don't think of it having importance or significance, but people that lived here, in the small amount, they contributed to something grander, something bigger in life. Of course, when you're there, you're thinking about your own death in a way, and you're thinking about life right now, and there's so much anger and frustration and blame. I'm going to end up like all the people here, and so will everybody else. What are we doing? Why are we fighting? Why can't we find peace and love and live our lives truly? So these are some things that I'm thinking about, and I hope you think about as well. How we're given this gift of life. We don't know when it ends, but we just have to live it to our best and make sure that people around us are cared for and feel loved, so that we can go and move forward in a beautiful direction.